So, hi everybody. Hi everybody. Welcome to Lunchtime with Anna. As you guys know, I did not air this last Wednesday because I was over in ATL at a pardons and parole meeting as well, or parole and pardons meeting, as well as at a rally so for me, it's some clients, right? So I say all that to say this. I ran into my buddy, my boy, Leonard, while I was out there. And I'll tell you, I was so excited to see the different activists. I think we had at least, mm, I would say about 15, 20 of them altogether, because some of them left. And he's going to give a report on actually what went on during the airing, or not the airing, I'm sorry, during the rally and the meeting and all of that, because I kind of wanted to give a breakdown. And then I wanted to bring some of the girls in so that they were able to give a breakdown of what they observed. I have my own opinion, of course, and, he has his, as well as the unity that we saw. That was really important. I have one announcement to make, and it's like the biggest thing I have coming, like in the next month or so. So, Leonard, Cassandra Green,
Yes.
my dear friend. I will be emceeing her event with WOW Ministries for
Hmm.
domestic violence. Of course, I would love to see you and your wife if you guys are able to make it there. As a survivor, it was an honor to be able to get invited to the event this year, because she has me speak every year, right? So this year, to be invited to the event as the MC. So I'm honored. I'm excited about it. I can't wait to hear these lovely ladies' stories. I'm looking for the post so that I can read it to you guys. I know the event is on October 9th. Okay, so let me read to you guys exactly what she's got here. So WOW Ministries Purple and Pink Brunch is coming on October 9th. And you don't want to miss these awesome women sharing their stories and their talents. We are still looking for gifts, donations for bags, sponsors to help with costs. No one can do everything, but everyone can do something. Call Cassandra at 770-899-7424. Again, I will be emceeing the event. We will have Adrienne Stearns Price tell her story. We will have Cheryl Brown McCoy, who has a powerful story, tell her story. We'll have Rose Boyd tell her story, as well as Kate Davis, Tiffany Wells Ezard, as well as Melissa Rose, Lola Wilson, and of course it's hosted by Cassandra Green, and I will be emceeing it. So the flyer's over on my page if you guys would like to get in on it, donate, or whatever else. I'll tell you guys, it's one of the most awesomest and powerful events that I do each year. Out of everything that I do and all the different hats that I wear, that is my favorite event to do. So I'm just really honored, and I appreciate Cassandra for trusting me, right, to be able to do that and MC that event. So now to our special guest, Leonard. Leonard, how are you? How are you
Good
doing?
afternoon. Good afternoon, Anna. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I think we lost Erica somewhere. I don't know. She was here. I think I lost her, but we have another guest coming in a few. How have you been these last few days since I last saw you, man? Because that was a good meeting. Every time I see you, the knowledge that you pick, Leonard, you are a mentor to me, and as a friend, I just really value you and
Thank you.
value your opinion on a lot of things, because I think we're on the same mind frame when it comes to helping the community. But that's enough about me bragging about my friends. Tell about yourself.
Man, it's good to be here. I'm the vice president of New Order National Human Rights Organization. And what we do is we're a human rights organization that supports anyone in the community that needs assistance. We do the best we can in various areas, whether it's mentoring, healthcare, taking on clients dealing with issues of injustice and mistreatment, and just standing up and supporting people and making the communities aware of what's going on and the problems that are happening. And lots of people contact us to see how we can help them. A lot of times we speak to various law enforcement agencies, boards like this, and things of that nature. I've done a lot with organizations, helping start organizations and help people develop ideas from grassroots to establishing their own 501c3s and things of that nature, and just really supporting anybody that has a righteous cause. And I think that this cause is righteous. I dealt with the Board of Pardon and Paroles more actively during the Troy Davis issue, who when he was executed, and the things leading up to that execution. And it is amazing that we have 5 individuals making the decisions for anyone that is ever involved in that court system, in that justice system, especially in that system that is overrun with corruption. And there are several things going on that a lot of people are not aware of. 5 people handpicked by the governor for 7-year terms sit back and make the decisions on whether or not and how individuals are introduced back into the system after being incarcerated. And we need to understand that this board has they report to no one. No one has really, quote, authority over them, with the exception of the governor that appointed them. So I'm sure everyone knows how important it is that these movements be tied to the concept of people's civic duty to get out and vote. Vote for the change you want to see. And currently, we know as long as there is a Republican majority around, we're gonna have to fight like hell to make any changes whatsoever that are discriminating against people, that are unfair to people, and just seem to always be on the wrong side of what it is they say they're about, such as rehabilitation and those types of things. They operate more as specifically a penal institution. And it's very important that people understand that. Once we begin to monetize incarceration, that is what I would call, if this was a regular corporation, the profit motive is keeping people incarcerated. This is the reason why it is so important that they keep in place a system full of holes and tricks and technicalities to keep people incarcerated. So many people to the point that you're having problems getting to things in a timely manner, such as how long do people sit in jail before arraignment? How is it determined where or when a person may or may not be transferred, or may be in a situation where it becomes so inconvenient for them to stay connected to their families because they've been transferred somewhere to a different, completely different state that causes hardship on visitation, for instance. Just because people are incarcerated does not mean that they are not human beings. And I'm for a very rational approach to trying to do whatever it is possible for us, first of all, to remove the inconsistencies and discrimination in the system. So hopefully we can talk about ways to do that and how we approach that. But everything has to be directed in the same direction, and that is justice and public safety. So it's a hard fight to convince anybody sometimes on the rights of those incarcerated. Because as we see here in the United States of America, we still have it on the books where this is the only provision for slavery in the United States of America. And that is incarcerated persons, persons convicted of crimes. So they have justified not caring about what these individuals are being fed every day, the health care that's being provided to them, whether it's physical or mental health. I've gotten involved where we've had to get involved with people who couldn't get their loved ones medication. So we have to go talk to wardens. And we know that we've had wardens be removed. So there are things that we can do along the way that leads to the bigger picture. But we need to definitely go after the low hanging fruit first. And those things that are big problems, we have to make sure that they're in front of people who are have the authority to make the changes, such as your man that you had there speaking, Congressman McLaughlin, I believe his name is. Was that I'm not sure if I'm saying it correctly. His name,
I think it was
Tick.
McLaurin.
Oh yeah, McLaurin. My
McLaurin.
fault. McLaurin.
I'm Guys, I'm having a little bit of technical difficulty. I'm trying to add somebody on, so that's why I keep coming in and out, and my sound is bad. So if we're having technical difficulties, bear with me. So Leonard, you can keep going, and I'm listening,
Okay.
and like I said, but I'm having technical difficulties.
I think it was great to make the community aware, and Miss Rodriguez did an excellent job at getting people to come out that day. Like I said, it has been years since I have actually tried to get into another meeting by the Board of Pardon and Paroles. So it was great to have people there. There are people interested. And now we take all those people that came and we start getting moving up to the point where we're on the radio and we're giving people information, events for them to come out to, and constantly
Absolutely.
educating them on what is going on and why this effort is even being attempted. To me, it's not a big deal from New Order's point of view who's at the front. It's just that long as we got some goals and some objectives that we trying to reach and we ain't wasting nobody time and we're willing to
Correct.
take it all the way to the floor to either change the way this board is constructed. If so, there are some people out there that even voice an opinion of getting rid of that board altogether. But whatever it is, a list of demands need to be presented, and those list of demands need to be changed into policy that can be used to encourage representatives and the Senate as well that, hey, we got to change this thing up. Whether we take this power away from the governor, we got to add more people and get some more community issue people on that board because right now everybody work for the company from the front end to the back. Everybody's been in law enforcement in one way or another, and we know they all don't even share the same opinion. But I don't see any allies at this point after being at that meeting on the board that shows an interest in change at all. Maybe changes on how they do their job, but we need to expose things and it some approaches that people are used to may not work. Personally, the uproar and all that and making a scene and all that is probably not the best way. We've done that. We've had hundreds and hundreds of people in the streets about these issues, usually when it is related to someone getting ready to be executed.
Mhm.
That's the only time really that the vast amount of the public really understands what this board is about in Georgia because we give them the sole right to even decide on carrying out executions.
Mhm.
You got to have some people on a board like that that are compassionate towards incarcerated persons and their return into society.
So let me ask you a question, Leonard. In your opinion, while you were sitting there in the parole board meeting, right? Because I did a lot of the serving. It was one of these things that they just kind of kept looking like, who in the world got this together, right?
Hmm. That's the first thing
You
I
could
was
tell
asked when I walked up was, "Are
who
you
did
here
this.
with the protest people?"
It's not a protest. It wasn't a protest. There was no
Everything to
protest.
them is a protest. If you're outside talking about them, it's a protest.
Of course,
So obviously they were looking over social media
absolutely.
and they were expecting it. Now, I'm not sure if it was a coincidence or not, but the agenda was pretty much not set up for a whole lot that day. As you can see, there wasn't a whole lot of time for public comment at all.
Yeah, I think it was 3 minutes, 5 minutes tops. Let's give
Maybe
them five
5
minutes,
minutes, maybe 5
maybe
minutes.
five. Absolutely.
So they were really not, and the chairman commented on that they really weren't,
Prepared.
prepared
Yeah.
for public comment. But hey, who got one? Raise your hand.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
and,
yeah.
and that's not really common for most boards. Usually there's a sign-in sheet
Yeah.
and things of that nature. But you can see how small the room was, how uncomfortable the room was, and everything else because they simply were not expecting us. And the majority of the meeting was like a, hey, here's what's new from your operations department. We hired these people because obviously there were lots of vacancies, and I believe that there still are vacancies. But these are the new people we hired. This is what they do, and this is how they're going to make sure that you all have the best information about individuals in front of you in these files when you're presented with them. And pretty much that's the way the system is worked. I've read up on the process, and basically is you got just five people. You have no idea where they come from, but if you go to the website, you can read about them in a little bio. You
And
need
it's not even much. You don't even
no.
get much. Um, One thing that I gathered there, and I just need your opinion, right?
Mhm.
That I noticed. First of all, they were really sarcastic. I don't know if you picked up on their sarcasm. The whole, oh, everybody blended in the room. Oh, you blended with the crowd. Oh, and I just thought, okay, we got jokes now. Um, it's I really think that instead, because we had maybe I would say, I don't know. Am I exaggerating when I think it was about 70 in the room and outside altogether? Because there was at least
I
15 of us
think,
standing
yeah, it
outside.
was the room was packed, and they even asked all of their staff to stand up as much as possible, so
Okay.
folks like us could sit down.
Okay. Okay.
And,
See, I wasn't there for that.
right,
But there was at least 15 of us standing outside.
gotcha.
And it was really, really hot. So,
Hmm.
I think that in my opinion, next time, let's triple that number, that magical number of 70 altogether. Because this was another thing. Their old business and new business, that wasn't very clear to what in the world they were talking about. First of all, you didn't have meetings for the last 3 months. Second of all, your what is old business, what is new business? I believe that when you have an agenda, it's not just old business, new business.
Well,
You see what
actually,
I'm saying?
actually, this is the way that all of the boards are ran. It's a common order that most agendas that all the boards use. And it's set up that way to address issues that were open from previous meetings to be considered or closed or what have you, and then new information to be introduced. Now, if one thing usually is the board do not respond to comments at all.
And they didn't. They didn't
Exactly.
respond.
And
There was
this
no
will
response.
be how every meeting is ran,
Okay.
because that's the way they run the meetings. And anything you want, that's why you have to use open records. One thing about Georgia is there's a law that say if there's a public meeting of any type, there should be records along with it. So this agenda is part of that record of what goes on at that meeting because it's required. All they talked about basically was the use of some vehicles,
Hmm.
state vehicles and things of that nature. Pretty much just regular operations type stuff. Nothing about what protesters would have wanted to talk about. You understand?
Absolutely. And yeah, and see, this was it. um, I noticed, okay, and it's wonderful that, they were giving people positions and introducing them, because it's wonderful to have a great relationship. I'm all for that. And it's wonderful for the public to know.
Because they do
However,
all the work and present it to the
mhm,
board.
there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. So I do agree with that. However, this, to me, in my opinion, right, just coming from Lunchtime with Ana, aka Ana Quinones, was we got nowhere. We got nowhere. And then it was a little bit well, we'll get to the rally in a little while, but I just want to focus on that meeting, because I noticed like a lot of uncomfortableness, right? From the looks, the elbowing to one another. I don't know if you notated that and noticed that. I did very much notice that. Standing at the door, I was able to get very good views of everybody. you know, so, because I'm normally short and I can't see over people, so whatever, but I was standing in the front and I was able to see a lot. And I'll say from the top, and I don't need to say names, from the top all the way down, I noticed the looks, the uncomfortableness by the elbowing and the joking and because some people laugh and stuff when it's awkward. But it's almost like, you know what, you guys can keep coming here. We're gonna do whatever we do, and that's that. What are you thinking, Leonard? Could you agree with that with me? I wish we can get her in.
Man,
Um,
I do agree with you because that's the facts of the matter, actually. It's not just what you perceive there. That is a government board. It is funded that way. And they're going to put people on that board
mm,
solely that follow lock and step with law enforcement from first engagement with a police officer at a traffic stop, for example, to serving time and coming out of prison. And I'm saying that because what we're talking about doing is a compassionate type
mhm.
of movement. Because you have to
Absolutely.
remember the incarcerated person is bearing a mark on them when they come back out into the community for people who know them and things of that nature, people who may know what they've done. It's hard to convince people that it's great that we're moving a former murderer is being housed next door to you. Some people gonna say they don't want that in their neighborhood. Shout out to the activist person that I met inside of that at the meeting, who actually has a boarding house for individuals coming out of prison.
Oh yes, I did meet her. Shout out to Patty.
Hmm.
And Patty was awesome. Let me tell you guys something. I met Patty coming out the door. So she tells me, and she reminded me, Leonard, she reminded me of me. She's like, look, if nobody wants to accept them back in, I have opened up my doors. And I want them to parole and come to my house, because guess what? They appreciate me so much that their loyalty is to me. You know what I'm saying? And they have helped her. They've come back and they've helped with other inmates and so forth, so on. And that's what it's about. When I met her, she's from New York. She's from Brooklyn. She's got that personality when you talk to her, that up north, real upbeat, wonderful woman. I absolutely enjoyed every second of talking with her. Unfortunately, I have her card downstairs in the car. I don't have it here on hand. But if anybody needs to get in contact with Patty, please, please, please let me know, and I will, if you need an address or any help with anything, she does pretty much what we see you does in that case, and she does follow the files for a while. So it was just refreshing to meet another woman that fights the passion the way that I fight it, and with nothing. She's not asking for anything in return. She's just asking to be here all together. No, I can't hear you. I don't know what's going on. I think it's my signal over here. Um, um, but Leonard, yeah. So her name was Patty. I absolutely love that lady. The lady was the bomb.
And,
Um,
and I mentioned her specifically
I'm gonna
because
try something here.
what she does addresses a particular issue that a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people are concerned about.
Mm-hmm.
And it's definitely reentry of former sex offenders back
Mm-hmm.
into the communities. And, someone who has the issue could probably better explain it. And on one point, you understand why these rules are there. However, it creates a bigger problem when it comes to reentry.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, if people come back, they're going to need family help, especially a place to live. So, what is the middle ground? It's establishing a place and places where these people can live. I remember, and telling on myself and my age, where guys used to live at the YMCA where I'm from. It was set up for men in these types of issues, especially those transitioning back into the community. That's what the YMCA used to do. They used to have rooms and everything and a facility and stuff like that for anyone coming out. I think we used to call them, sometimes in other places you would call them halfway houses, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
You familiar with that language, I think,
Yes.
as it relates to drug treatment and things like
Yep.
that as well. But one of the
Yeah.
things you ask for is, when it comes to rehabilitation and releasing them back into society, especially if there are resources there, how are those resources being used to actually assist these people with finding a place to live,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you have told them where they can't live?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Where do you expect them to live?
And see, the thing is that, with sex offenders, for my organization, that's not our strength. Because of staff members that I have, there's certain things that, as an organization, they decided on from the beginning. That's not my specialty, that we deal with. However, it is true. When you have a felony of any type, especially those certain ones, where are you going to live? Can't just live anywhere, because they're not going to just let you live anywhere,
Right.
period, because there's background checks, there's credit checks, there's this check, there's that check. Some of them, so many of them, don't even have something as simple as a social security card when they get out. These are the things that our organizations follow up with them after the fact. Don't even have a roof under their head, don't have a birth certificate. People forget it's these little small things that make it harder for them when they get out. And then you wonder why they reoffend. How was I supposed to get all of this stuff? Because then you need two forms of ID to get this or that. We all know this, Leonard. It's not that easy.
Mhm. And I believe that it's a great idea for anybody listening. I'm not the type of person to give somebody an idea and think I own it, because I don't. I don't own. I'm just giving it out. So anybody that wants to contribute to anything, man, get in on the call, bring it up, get in touch with Anna. So it's things like this that we need to gather information on. Is okay. This is the problem. Here are some possible solutions to the problem.
Yep.
One of those things, like, say, for instance, with working and things of that nature and what's required, and everything should be directed towards reducing recidivism.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's a hard haul to get people to understand the importance of rehabilitation in the process. And I like to also like I'm gonna use an analogy. If you're trying to break
Hang on 1 second, Leonard. Erica, it's not letting me click you in. I can see you now, but it's not letting me click you in. So I don't know if that's you or me. But I just wanted to let her know that. Go ahead.
mm-hmm. Send her. Did you send her an invitation? When you send her an invitation,
I
it don't.
I did. I sent her like 3 of them.
Oh.
I think we're on the third one, or second or third. I don't even know. So I just wanted to let her know that because I'm trying on this and I don't know if it's me or if it's her or if it's just StreamYard in general. You know, sometimes it gives us a hard time. So go ahead, Leonard.
And
I
everything that
really want to hear.
I mentioned is for you to use, Miss Erica to
Absolutely.
use as well, because it, like I
Absolutely.
say, I'll reiterate, I have no interest in being in the front of this,
Absolutely.
but I will support people that want to do it as a group and to really, because I believe it's a system issue and you're going after an entire system of doing things. And
Absolutely.
how we have approached issues in the past have shown to be ineffective against these types of boards. This ain't a board corporation worried about profits or anything like that. This is fully supported by the government with a healthy budget from the state. So the state is invested in how this board does business. This is why they don't allow you to vote for these individuals, or they don't have a broader spectrum of the general public involved. They want people that follow the company's interests locked in step. It makes about as much sense as trying to get workman's comp from somebody and you going to they doctor. They doctor gonna always say you can go back to work because they on their side. This is what leads to some type these unjust practice and this discrimination that we see. So we need to make sure we targeting those issues that are necessary for change, and it shouldn't be general. It should not be general. It should be like, here's the cancer, this is where we going. That's why we doing surgery, because we know why we're there and we trying to go and get it out.
Mm-hmm.
So you choose. Some of y'all, like you have in individual cases, Anna, that you have to handle each one of those cases differently. But it has to be understood by some that we're supporting a system change that goes along with how your loved ones may be currently being treated in a situation. Everybody want their folk back at home. You know, everybody thinks that their loved ones should be released. But do you think they should be released because they earned that release or just because you want them at home? Just with talking with Anna and listening to the people at the rally, there are certain people that simply are just not allowed parole. And the board pretty much just gives you some kind of reason. Like, Anna, what did you tell me that they told you when you take your client who has crossed off the T's and dotted the I's and eligible for parole, but they say no? And the
Exactly.
reasoning they give you.
So the reason that they give is they haven't done enough time. And all 7 of mine, We See You, human justice organizations, clients have all received the same response back. Mind you, we have clients that have not had DRs in 22 years plus. We have others that, yes, they got in trouble when they were younger and, realized I can't continue to do this. We have all different scenarios, right? But the thing is that they went into prison in the 90s. You're talking about 18 and 19-year-olds. I'm really big on saying, even from the time you're 18 to 25, we change a whole lot. From 25 to 30, we change a whole lot. From 30 to 40, we change a whole lot. From 40 to 50, we change a whole lot. So it's something that's never, ever ending. And, you know, people have got to understand that at the end of the day, when is enough time? So my understanding is now they weren't saying this, right? But they want you to serve at least 30 years. But tell the public that. Don't keep this behind closed doors, because
Right.
now you have an inmate that's about to lose his mind because he's thinking, I did everything I had to do. Just tell the truth. We're not going to parole you, period. Let's not be with the okey doke. And, you know, so anyways, that is the excuse that they use. You haven't done enough time. They say that certain things, according to what they explained to me, the public affairs guys, Mr. Hayes,
Kevin Hayes. Yes, Steve Hayes.
Stephen Hayes,
Yes,
is
Stephen
that
Hayes.
we are not, okay, so there's certain things that are not let out to the public. One of the things is we cannot let you guys know to the extreme of what has taken, what the exact reasoning for them not doing it, because this is the law. So as activists, you know,
Excuse
after
me.
me speaking
Keep going. I'll be right back. Keep going.
yes, as an activist, after me speaking with him, I made the decision that I want to get a few other activists together and I want to see what these laws are, because then we need to go back. We need to get somebody in Congress, somebody to back us up on the law, some type of representative to back us up on these laws, because then there's certain things that should be let out to the public. Now, I do understand and I do sympathize with whatever victim, if there's victims involved. We cannot take that from the victim. However, how many times can a victim's family turn around and say, I don't want this person to get out. I don't want that. What is the cap on that? Because, you know, again, I have clients that are sitting there in a life sentence. They never killed anybody. You know, it was maybe for other charges. There's just every story is a little bit different from one another. So for me, it's really frustrating trying to find a fine print, because pretty much the way I understood it is we accept who we feel is ready. How do you know if somebody's really ready to come back to society? You know, and I understand there are certain crimes, you know, and that's why certain things as an organization I can't stand behind, because those certain crimes make it more difficult. However, with that being said, I think as activists, all of us, right? All of us should stand firm and stand together on what are these laws in Georgia? What are these laws? I need to know. What are these laws that prevent you from telling these offenders whatever is public? Now, I will say this just for the record. If you do write a letter for an offender, it does go on file under public record. So we writing for the offender is public records, but there's some things that are the law kept behind closed doors. So I don't know if the law is the victims, right? Or what? But if it's the victims, they need to be transparent, you know, and say it's the victim, you know, that's doing this or whatever from that camp, whatever it is that they use. But to me, it's almost like we're just not going to give you that information. You know, and like I said, I have some clients that have really switched their whole life around. How long do you have to pay for the same crime? That's the question. How long do you have to pay? So I'm sorry, Leonard, I get passionate because, you know, I got those lifers. I'm gonna get them home. I'm gonna get them home.
And you know, because all of us come from different backgrounds, I believe it's a way to approach an issue and have more than one weapon, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Compassion's great. We could take the compassion and zero in and go after what we want. Like, say, for instance, uh, it's not good enough to say you haven't served enough time. Because if I haven't served enough, then you know how much time I should serve, then you should be able to tell me that.
And
So,
that's what I said to him. There was no answer for that. It was
of
birds
course.
chirping over the phone, Birds
Right.
chirping.
Because like I said, everybody that got a job ain't great at it. But
There you go.
you know,
I'm telling you, yeah, y'all. That's why Leonard is my buddy. I need to bring him everywhere. So whatever I'm thinking, he just say it.
but it's a
Just
better
blurt it out.
approach to go into this conversation and let them know your procedure
Mm-hmm.
says a person is eligible for parole after serving a third of the time he was sentenced to. So
Mm-hmm.
I should be eligible for parole. If I get 27 years, I should be eligible for parole after 9, unless my particular sentence stipulates something else. Now, whether they're dropping the ball at writing the sentence, or is this an area where they provide for corruption?
There you go.
Like I say, everybody getting something off the top. So what and there seems to be a odd relationship between the board and the actual judicial portion that does the sentencing. If a sentence is 27 years, like something you just said, I didn't know if that was opinion or what.
On what?
If I'm sentenced to 27, that's my sentence.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what you want me to do, board. I was only sentenced to 27. So you should not have the authority to give me 30.
And see,
And
that's
they're
the
not giving
authority
you
that they have
30. They're not giving you 30. What they're doing is denying you parole.
all the way through. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
All
why
the way
even
through.
go? And the reason why you go for parole is because you were told that you had that possibility.
Yep.
So you may say, as an activist, I want it written in to where they have to write the sentence and guarantee parole. That could be somebody's approach. And it would be a different fight if that's what you wanted to do.
Absolutely.
Or it could be you limit how they're doing it, because pretty much, yeah, we'll sit here and hear you, but we ain't changing nothing. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't have to. They don't have to. So you have to go about taking the power from them. And so you have to appeal that people that give them their authority anyway. And that is Georgia gives them that authority. So you have to go back to the legislature and get those people involved, like Mr. McLaurin.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. McLaurin needs to talk to the person next to him and these representatives. And what we have done in the past, we have a day that we go down there and we hand walk letters and talk to people in office
Mm-hmm.
about, hey, we want this bill. Would you support this bill? That's what they usually do, is they get people when they really want something passed, they have what they call the whip. Shout out to
Mm-hmm.
Stacey Abrams. She used to be that whip and to get the votes together necessary to get laws passed. So
Mm-hmm.
it takes sometimes an activist effort to say, we're going to have a day at the Capitol where we go to the representatives and the senators and tell them this is what we want. Like we did working with Georgia for alternatives to the death penalty, for instance. You shouldn't be executing individuals with mental illness.
Absolutely.
You shouldn't be executing people with chemicals and we don't even know where you buying them from
Mm-hmm.
or where you're
Mm-hmm.
getting them from. That was the issue then. See, there were all different types of approaches to trying to get them to slow down or even have a moratorium, which was what they wanted, against the death penalty. If that's what you're fighting for, that's what your effort should be. And you should know who to go after to get that done.
So, Leonard, let me ask you a question from one activist to another and friend to friend. What is your recommendation? Because I'm going to give you an example. There was no meetings May, June, or July.
Right.
Almost all of these people that were up on those months is when they got the response. Deny, 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 deny. Haven't done enough time, haven't done enough time, haven't done enough time. I mean, because I'm going to ask those hard questions. If I get the opportunity to stand in front of you, I'm going to ask you, why is this? Don't you think that they are owed? Because at the end of the day, yes, you committed a crime. Yes, you're doing the time. So you're still a human being. You still have rights. So this whole notion of you just haven't done enough time. I'll tell you, I had clients that were literally losing it in there, losing their mind because they're like, I did everything I had to do. You did what you had to do as a human rights activist, making sure that parole packet went out the way it was supposed to. Making sure my family made sure I had a place. I made sure personally, Anna Quinones made sure personally that I spoke to individuals that could give them jobs and have connected with people to give them jobs. So what is it now? What is it that we as activists can do to change this? Because I'll be the first one to sign up. I don't need any credit for anything. I just want the laws changed. Mm-hmm. Lunchtime with Anna or RCU doesn't need to even be mentioned in anything. The laws just have to change the way that they approach things. What is your recommendation?
Well, my recommendation is to do exactly that. And one is to question the discretion of the board in terms of that particular group of individuals that have met the marks in relationship to their conduct and things like that in prison, checked off all the dots.
Mm-hmm.
How do you even get to that point and don't have enough time for parole? Their system says that every prisoner, mm-hmm, it's automated. When they serve their time, they should be going for a parole hearing. Are they going on time? Something as simple as that. Have they been keeping up with the workload and making sure that every prisoner, mm-hmm, has a right to that parole after he or she serves a third of her sentence? Because it says that activists and people shouldn't have to go and protest for this to happen.
Absolutely.
So what is happening? Are they actually getting that on time?
And so I'll tell you along those lines, when you're talking about getting things done on time, I have a client who right now, I'm calling it, I'm being ping pong between GDC, parole, and this department, that department, because all we're trying to do is get the client security put down. All these different ways of the way that they do it. Oh, it's a computer, or it's this way, it's that way, it's that way. I finally had somebody right before we aired call me right back. They said, look, there's a committee within each prison that does it. So whatever everybody's telling you is not completely true, because at this point, then now we know who to approach. Now, if it's coming from your own department, then you guys are not doing your job. If this inmate hasn't done anything to get any DRs, is not getting in any trouble, why did the security? And for a lot of them, it just went up for no reason. And they're stating that it's a computer system. Morales said this the last time he was on there, and it might very well be a part of it, but someone has to push these buttons. There's something that they're clicking somewhere in there.
Right. So, and as an activist, it's your responsibility. Like I'm saying, when I get a door closed, how am I gonna get it open?
There you go.
Am I gonna kick it in? Am I gonna go around the back?
That's
or I'm just gonna climb in the window. I'm just gonna climb in the window.
Well, I'm gonna do all of them.
Hey, like I say, I believe in full frontal assaults on the issue. So, but I just want to make sure that
I'm gonna go through everybody.
But the people that are supporting it, it's going to be the work that they do to get it done.
Absolutely.
Like, say, for instance, me knowing that you work particularly with individuals that have those life sentences. They wrote it exactly the way it should have been written. And parole decision guidelines are not used for any inmate sentenced to life. They just put it out there like that.
Mhm.
And then I believe with those particular inmates, depending on their crime, and as we talked about before, of course, what they call, I believe, the seven heinous and things of that nature.
Mhm.
They came up with this time situation as if they were committed prior to July 2006. They don't get considered for parole until 14 years, till they've served 14 years. Now, those that committed after July 6th, it got worse. They they have to serve almost 30 years. That's where that 30 years rings a bell when you were saying it to me.
Mhm. Mhm.
Those individuals after July 2000, July the 1st, 2006, that committed one of those seven heinous or deadly or whatever they had called them, or violent, serious violent felonies, they would call them.
Mhm.
That standard was changed in July the 6th. And though you may have heard certain activists saying, look at these changes that they're making. What, it wasn't a big enough movement to stop them from making that change. So they moved
Mhm.
these people consideration for parole almost to 30 years.
It is to 30 years.
Right,
They won't even go
right,
back up till 2036. Anybody
right.
who's committed a crime at that time.
Exactly.
Um, and see, Leonard, this is one of the things. Every one of the clients that I have falls before that law changed.
Hmm.
So they should have had these opportunities, right, to
Hmm.
go up. But every time is, you just haven't done enough time. You haven't done enough time. You haven't
And
done enough time.
let
Get
me
set off
tell you
3
where it
years,
is
1
so
year.
important at, where this is even a bigger issue at, and you may not be aware of. And we definitely need to get uh I'm gonna think of her name in a minute. But the people that take these issues to the actual National Human Rights Council.
Mhm.
America
Mhm.
already has the tension of that council as it relates to mass
Mhm.
incarceration,
Mhm. Mhm.
because America has more people incarcerated than anybody, and America is making money off of it.
Yep.
And I do believe trading these interests on the stock market.
Wow.
See, that's your impetus for why it's necessary to maintain these mass incarceration levels.
Mhm.
Cities start to break down and start announcing criminal justice reform. Why? Because they were going headed towards bankruptcy with their spending, especially on Department of Corrections.
Mhm. Mhm.
So you may have thought it was so compassionate when some of these cities do what they do, but it's not compassion at all.
Mhm. Mhm.
They trying to free up money and trying not to go bankrupt, and because that's where they're spending all their money. We could have every non-violent criminal should always be paroled when it's time, based on this whole notion of people sleeping on floors, packed in cells, and like one gentleman has said, I believe, I listened to him say, people could grab you just walking down the hall. It was so packed. Other
Well,
criminals.
and see, in the case, and I know I always bring them up, but Leonard, as I've mentioned to you, and as everybody knows, in the case of David Scott, WCU's client, um, he was at Clayton County Jail, awaiting arraignment, sitting at a table when he gets stabbed in the back of his neck. If he ever gets the opportunity to talk to any of you guys, he will tell you guys there was people sleeping on mats in areas they shouldn't have been sleeping in. It was overcrowding. That guy should have never been with general population in the first place because he was a mental health case. So he should have been in mental ward treatment, right?
Mhm.
And not only that, the guy had already attempted this 2 or 3 other times. But meanwhile, our client gets stabbed in the neck, and this is why I advocate for him so much. And now he's sitting in prison for murder because he defended himself. And I'm not saying that maybe, you overreact, you this, you that. Look, let me tell you guys something. You never know what you're going to do until you're in the situation. My reaction is if somebody stabs me, I'm going to defend myself. So I don't judge him on that. I judge him.
Hey, what happened,
Oh,
Hannah?
I'm sorry, I was reading a
Oh, okay.
comment. So I judge people, based on, what I see. I actually read the transcripts and stuff to how they connected one case to another. And it's just interesting to see at the time he was so young. And the truth is that Clayton County let him down. At the time, like I mentioned to you, Victor Hill was the detective, and he promised him all these things of how he was going to be helped, and now our client is sitting in prison for murder. And it's just unbelievable to see that this is the way the system works, and this is why I fight so adamantly, because when I hear stories like this, are you really, and then how do you take, you haven't done enough time? You haven't
Right.
done enough time.
And because you have said that so much, I think that it would be worth it to go after that. Because even working with, say, for instance, National Labor Relations Board, when it did with labor, and the very general responses that companies give for termination. Well, in the South, if you have the notion that people can fire you for any reason, yeah, but they got to defend the reason that they fired you for, and it has to be
Mhm,
rational. But
mhm,
if you never challenge, they get away with it.
mhm, mhm. That's right.
So what they'll do is they'll give a very general response, because one, it's like, just put that in there. And if no one says anything, we don't have no problem. But
Mhm.
usually, if you go back and prove that you were terminated wrongfully, you
They
win
give you your job back,
if
or
you
they give
want it.
you
But usually,
equal
what they
rights
can't offer you
lawsuit.
is give you your job back and back pay for
Mhm,
terminating you wrongfully.
mhm,
You don't have that type of leverage with
right.
this issue. So, and I was thinking of Miss Zena Crenshaw, who is actually an individual who supports these types of issues as it relates to the human rights aspect, because she's the chairperson of the Council of Organizations and things
Mhm,
like that for that center that she works for out of Louisiana, but she lives here in Georgia. And I'm going to run some things past her as well
mhm,
to how that she would be able to contribute, because what you're talking about has all is already at the level of a possible violation. Now, whether it may not violate a civil right, but
mhm.
in terms of human rights, it could be
Absolutely.
looked at differently.
Absolutely. And see, that's my thing. If we can open the door between a lot of us and putting our head together, look, this is how I can come in, this is how I can come in. Maybe because this is the thing. There are, and let me make this clear, because I'm getting to know it more and more, the system, right? Especially for lifers. There are transitional centers for lifers. Why? And I have to emphasize, why are you just giving them the bull crap, to not say another word, excuse of you haven't done enough time? Because if you have the possibility of parole, then there is that option. Let's not say there isn't that option. And see, I'm gonna fight. I call them my magical 8. I'm gonna fight for them, and I'm gonna continue fighting, because I'm sorry, no DRs, or maybe if you did things within, because see, this is another thing Mr. Hayes did mention to me. So they look at your first few years and they discard that. So that doesn't count on a life sentence. They look at your later years and what you've done and da 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 da. And so I said to myself, so what you're saying is, so that they're young, they're dumb, they do dumb things, but your system should have already broken them down after 5 years. Is what, in a very nonchalant way, you said to me, and it's a little bit frustrating, because I was like, that doesn't even make sense. But we still have other clients that have not had one DR, not
Mhm.
one. And for me, again, they all have different stories. They all have a different walk of life. But to me, the whole idea of you haven't done enough time, what is, and I asked them, I straight up had to ask, what is enough time? What is enough time? What is enough time? Well, what did he say? He said, well, most of the time it would be 30 years. I said, no, no, no. That changed after 2006. My clients are not in there under that law. Oh, well, what the law says, this is what he says now. What it does say is that these clients of yours can go up for parole, but it doesn't mean we're going to parole them. So you're still trying to lead me to a dead end road with no
Yeah.
answer. You see what
Because
I'm
and
saying?
he does his and they do that job and like that stuff that I posted right there. You went out. Your sound went out.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
Okay.
And
Sorry.
see what I just posted there. One thing you notice about this board is everything is written so subjectively that there's always going to be
A
the
loophole.
opportunity for discrimination and corruption.
Hmm. A loophole. Yep.
Right. So they put this there to let you know that one, and think about it. If I had written this, I could have written it in a way that ensured the fact that I wouldn't have an empty bed.
Hmm.
Yeah, they met all the man, this guy really did what he was supposed to do. Is anybody speaking up for him? Would anybody else heart be broken if he didn't get out? Who would know it? Who would make us think about it?
Hmm.
You know, but we don't promise these people we keep these jails full. So we can't let everybody out. And one, because we're gonna put him in we're gonna consider him very dangerous. It's gonna cost us more to keep him incarcerated. We make more money if we keep him in here longer.
Hmm.
So either you want a system that says, I tell you what, give me my 30, and after my 30, let me go.
Hmm.
Don't even put parole in there if you're not giving it to me. But it still gives some hope to certain incarcerated persons. If you would speak to incarcerated persons, you would ask them, how do y'all feel about parole? How would you rather it be? Has anybody ever asked them that question?
I do.
You know,
I
but
ask them like, what do they want? Because I think they should have a. And I'm not saying they're always going to want it to their advantage,
of
but
course,
they see things we don't see. And I think if you have a neutral person, right, go in and listen to what they say, and then listen to the other side and find a happy medium, it would be better. But it's almost like it's once you're in there, there's no coming out.
and you
There's
have to
no coming
remember
out.
it is because that is the system
Hmm.
that still values slavery.
Hmm. There you go. There you go.
This is how
There
they're
you go.
able to monetize you, is by incarcerating you. So think about it. I can make more money off my investment if I leave it in the bank 30 years.
Hmm. That's right. Very
That's what this is
unfortunate, but
about.
very true.
So I always tell people, and I have to throw it in there, we usually don't talk about it from this side of the table as much when we're trying to do this. Trust me, jail ain't for poor people. If you're gonna play this game, you have to understand you have to buy your way in and buy your way out. And if you can't do that, you're not gonna get no justice. Well, I'm not even gonna say that. If the rules have already been set on how you lose, you lost.
There we go.
You
There we go.
lost.
I like that, Leonard. I really like that.
So
I like it.
now you the loser.
Right.
And now you trying to make amends for that. And these people have you in a system so corrupt, they don't care if you die in prison. We've seen what they do to people that die in prison. We've seen what they do to people that they kill in prison.
Absolutely.
So and all the politics involved in it.
Hmm.
The only way you can attack a situation like this is from every aspect where you think you can get a win. I think there should be people who, if you like getting involved with the political side in this movement, you should be the person volunteering for that down at the Capitol Day, or
Mhm.
personally calling or emailing every representative, going to their office and letting them know who you are, who you're with, and this is why you came to see them. The object is to try to get them to change this board. You, and also another approach for those people who, like you yourself, you're familiar with the system of how an activist puts their comment on the record.
Mhm. Mhm.
If you're doing 3 right now, your goal should be to do 100. Can
Mhm.
you get 100 people to vouch for this guy? I mean, how do you, they're not telling you how, they just telling you ain't enough time. Well, then you go there and that's what you ask at the meeting. And if nobody can give you an answer, guess what? That's what you go out and tell everybody on them streets. You tell them that they discriminating. You tell them that they're
That's
being
right.
unfair and they're being inhumane. And you build the case, Miss Rodriguez, on what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. And how many people
Mhm.
going to tell? Maybe you have your own radio show where you go case for case. People call in from wherever. Invite professionals that are on your side of the table.
Absolutely.
You know, I would get you an audience with Stacey Abrams and see how she feels about it. Get her to make one comment about it and then publish the comment if she's for you. You know what I'm saying? That helps her
Absolutely.
and that helps you. And that's how our approach from New Order will be a different approach going forward. Is
Mhm.
we starting to expose people and put people on the spot and then launch campaigns against them. Fannie
And
Willis
and
has.
you know what? I love that approach, Leonard.
Mhm.
Um, street groomers. What was his name? I had the pleasure of
Big
meeting
Big
him.
Big Haroon would tell you these ain't your seats.
Yes.
These are the people's seats.
Man,
That's who I thought of.
yes, yes. Let me tell you, it's almost like you could feel his spirit here. Let me tell you, I absolutely respected him. He's like,
Right.
get up in their face, call them out on it, and man, he just made you feel like you were on point the whole time,
And
and that
if you remember,
motivation.
the police never bothered him until
No,
they knew he wasn't going to stop.
that's right. That's right.
And then
That's
they
right.
started harassing the heck out of him.
That's right. I had
It's
the pleasure of meeting him, Leonard. I'm
oh
telling
yeah.
you, he's like you, like an amazing man that I highly respected. I hate, we didn't get to collaborate more together before his passing. May he rest
Mhm.
in peace. But an amazing, amazing soul who will motivate anybody to fight for everybody's
Yeah,
rights.
Big Brother said it out there, and he walked those streets just to
He
make
did.
sure kids and elderly people were
He
safe.
did.
He tried to work with police to get drugs and everything off the street, and they
He did.
turned on him, and
Mhm.
you name it. But community policing and things of that nature is very necessary, and we hope we can get, like I say, when you building a coalition, they do a certain thing. They lost their leader. Let's help them make sure they get back out there in the streets and they're able to continue. They're still feeding people and things
Mhm.
like that. So we need to get
They
back
are.
to that street effect that they had where they were walking the street like Big Haroon would walk the street. And
That's
and
right.
he would work with other people to go get things. He would go to the council meetings and things
Yes,
like
he
that.
did.
That's what this
Yes, he
movement
did.
has to be about. That's
And
what
we
this
have to
movement
do
has
it.
to be
Yeah,
about.
that's what it's about. And we're gonna have to be in their faces. We're gonna have to demand. I want answers. What because again, my thing is, in the case of Miss Rodriguez, I think she mentioned there is no chance of him paroling. Period. And I'll let her tell the story, of what his case is because that's not my place to go into
Hmm.
with that story. You know what I'm saying? But I say all that to say this. Why? are we not paroling them? Why are you being so prideful about all the people that are incarcerated, as they said in the rally, right? Why are you so prideful, but meanwhile only have, what was it, the number 9,000 something employees? That means that you have each and every one of those, what you call offenders, running your prisons for you, doing your job for you. That's not right. Then you wonder why there's murders, why the gang violence is up, why I'm trying to think what else they have in there.
Well, they have everything that you have definitely on the street.
That's what I was
However,
gonna say. Yes, pretty
they
much.
have people entrusted to administer justice involved in this as well.
Mm-hmm.
As we know the Department of Corrections in Georgia is deplorable.
Yep.
There are
And corrupt.
several groups, advocates, and things
Mm-hmm.
like that against that. So as you grow more and more, you reach out to them. Say, for instance, one of the different types of ways to get people out. Sometimes we have to make a compassionate reprieve, for instance. We would like a compassionate reprieve on this particular client. They got cancer, terminal, at
Mm-hmm.
least because, and if they meet the criteria, why not allow them to die at home? If they're eligible for what? Oh, I'm telling you, it's because as long as I keep my money in the bank, I get more interest.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody will have a great story on why a person should be let out. We don't want to fall into that same category because then people won't take you serious. Because you're not going to get a handful of rational citizens to believe you should turn murderers and things like that on the streets just because you're tired of them being in jail. That's irrational.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
We
anybody
actually,
that
yeah,
hears me
I agree.
and are offended by that, you need to get on the microphone. Because
Our number is 321-252-8084. 321-252-8084.
that's what I'm saying.
I now and y'all excuse my French. Excuse my French. This is not radio station right now. It is just a podcast, but I am with the shits right now. I am with the shit. Feel free to call in 321-252-8084.
Or post
Here we
on
have
Facebook. People posting on Facebook.
post it on Facebook.
And
I'm actually going to read one of these,
Okay.
Leonard. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
And also, I see them on YouTube. Is that where I see? No.
Yes, I
YouTube.
do air from YouTube. I do air
Okay.
from Twitter as well as LinkedIn and Facebook.
You want me to read Frederick's comment?
You can, because that's where I'm at.
The problem is the time is not matching the crime. The system is getting paid off them guys, so they're not wanting to let anyone go. Them guys do free labor inside as well on the side of the road.
That's true. Thank you, Ms. Wells.
That was Mr. Frederick.
Yeah. That was Mr. Frederick, and I'm sorry, Jessica Wells.
Oh, okay.
Saying that it was a good conversation.
And so
shout out to Jessica Wells.
I'm gonna go
activist.
after his comment. And everybody online, I'm actually, I didn't know it was going to be a live show, by the way.
Oh, you didn't? I'm sorry.
I thought it was just going to be us talking about
recording it. Yes,
right.
yes.
So I'm gonna give some information that I would give in a closer circle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so what are you gonna do about it? What's your suggestion, Frederick? We know the time don't fit the crime. It depends on your perception and your experience with that system.
No, I'm sorry. This is Peace Justice that's on here.
Brother Peace Justice should be a guest. I know Brother Peace Justice. He should be a guest because he's been through that system and he has a lot of experience, not just with being an individual who was incarcerated, but also
he should have been at that rally.
He was an individual on the other side that was the example for people who had been in the system to transition into another life and to be get back into community. And he has also got his certifications in this type of law and reach and helping people by fighting his own case and his book.
So let me ask Peace Justice a question, because he might have the answer, right? I have a lot of lifers on that's predominantly what I emphasize, or the cases that I have, right? Each and every one of them got a response back when they went up for parole, and it said they just haven't done enough time. Do you know why they do that, or do you have anything that you can motivate those prisoners? Because as you can imagine, they lose a hope because they get set off or offset, whatever they call it, for another year, another 3 years, another 2 years. And from what Mr. Hayes, just I want to make this clear to the public, right? So what Mr. Hayes was explaining to me was that as long as they're getting less than 5 years, it's like they're getting closer. I don't know what closer means. And then I said, so it does this, is this work? Like, is this a multiplication type thing that you guys are doing? Addition and, and he was like, well, no, not necessarily. It's not set in stone, but it sounded to me as if it was set in stone, because how would you know that? They're getting closer. You see what I'm saying? So they say that so that they can keep them in the system.
Yes.
Oh, it's a
Yes.
generic reason. How can we see? And I want to work with every activist to dismantle that. In my lifetime, I'm going to dismantle this system. Hear me?
Well, that was one of the your screen went out.
I'm sorry. Somebody was trying to call in.
Oh, okay. But that's one of the issues, and I'm glad Brother Peace Justice came on, because I had him on one of the radio shows that I used to do, and he has very good information and the experience, like I said, with the system on both sides. As an incarcerated person and a person who has gotten out and turned his whole life around and developed that whole organization that he has to help people. And it's about the policy change, as people are mentioning in that chat.
That's
So,
Peace Justice. That's Peace Justice responding to us
right.
here.
Shout out to Peace Justice. Like I say, shout out,
Shout out,
he's
Peace.
with New Order and working with things like that. And I've watched his case for a while and his approach to doing things. And it's great to have him on this call because of that experience that you get to use on what exactly are the problems that we should be going after. Because you can go after dreams and never get them. You know what I'm saying? But if you want something as simple as one line changed in a policy, go after getting that one line changed in the policy.
So, and this is my question. So, is it what I'm saying? Like, we just start asking for answers, and because I'm the type of person, so I like to execute, right? So you give me an agenda. You say this is what we're doing: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm gonna do 1. I'm gonna do 2. I'm gonna do 3. I'm gonna do 4. I'm gonna do 5, and we execute it. You know what I'm saying? So we getting the mission done, mission accomplished. I come from a military background. My dad was military, so that's
right.
how I look at everything in life.
Right. One of the things I actually, wrote down when I do my report to my board
New legislation.
and suggesting the strategy and the approach is there an established criteria for parole consideration? Just show it to me.
PIPs. They say this, they say that, but
We don't
nothing
need,
is set in stone.
what did you just say? What did you just say? What was that word you just said?
The PIPs?
Who understands that? What is that? What
Yeah,
kind of language
I know.
is that?
I didn't either, and I'm still trying to understand it.
Right.
So having a hard time. I'm like,
so that's what you force
it's a little
them
complicated
to tell you. It should be written down. It should be public record. You should ask, how do they communicate this process to the incarcerated person? Do y'all hold some type of class? What do you do? Probably not. Do you have is there a social worker or somebody in there with these incarcerated individuals explaining that to them? But what we do know is that when they do something against the rules that's inside of that prison that we know nothing about, they get punished.
Or in the case of a lot of, I'll ask, be honest with me. Tell me your DRs because I'm going to find out anyway. So let's just be honest with one another. What DRs do you have?
Mhm.
And then when they have to tell me, well, the correctional officer was in a bad mood, so she just gave everybody a DR, and then I had to fight it out, and they just felt everybody did it. So, and now you did nothing, and now you have DRs on your belt, under your belt, because they felt like doing it. And I'm
Right.
not going to say that's the case every time, but this does happen. And this
Right.
is real. This is a reality.
And that
So because they
is
have to
that
explain.
specific issue that you tackle that issue on that case level basis. Because
Mm-hmm.
in that case, if she got an attitude and gave it, so you got somebody in there that when they feel like just giving everybody DRs that determine they actual release because she got a bad day, she just put one in there. You have
Mm-hmm.
to go and find out if that's true.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then you have to file a complaint on that officer. When we had these issues where the person died in the prison in Rockdale County, New Order went
Okay.
back to see if they made the necessary changes and things that they would need to be made because remember, an actual Department of Justice claim was filed against them for that. So, say for instance, scale that down to the state level, down to your case. This was the
Mm-hmm.
issue. I got that DR because of this person got having a bad day. Let's say generally, if that was actually true. That
Yep.
person can't do that, shouldn't be
No, you
allowed to
can't.
do that. So
Nope.
guess what? I need to go now, get in touch and see how I find out about that
Why
person.
that's allowed? Yeah, and their
Yeah.
background. And I'm gonna tell you, like now that I have the I call them my magical eight. I have my eight. Let me tell you one thing. You mess with my eight, I'm going up the ladder one by one because if they get a DR and I know that they didn't do anything now, they know not to lie to me because I've told them if I find out you lied, we're gonna have a problem. I don't do lies. Just be transparent and yes, Hannah, I did it. I messed up, and we can work with that because then you're gonna have to start again from the beginning. But if you didn't do anything, I'm gonna fight for you, and I'm gonna get other activists to help me fight for you. That's a fact.
Right.
If you do you want to
Yeah,
read
I'll
that
read
one
that.
or?
But they're going to need our support and assistance from the outside to make it all come together. There should have been an angry mob outside and inside the parole board Wednesday. Well, if that was the case, I probably wouldn't have been there because I don't participate in angry mobs and things like that. So
That's
I'm not about that. However, if people have organizations that do that thing, give that your best shot if that's what you want to do. But I'm not on board with any of that.
well because I genuinely believe that behind closed doors we could fix a lot more. Rather than think about it when there has been these rallies, right? Um, for situations that have happened that maybe are very angering to us and
Uh-huh.
stuff starts getting broken, people start getting pissed off, whatever, it never turns out good.
No, I
But
mean
when you
it
can
never does. Go
speak
ahead.
about things behind closed doors, you can't lose.
Or why
So
not why not be talking to the governor about it?
and that's one of the things that I am going to set up. And it's one of the things I'm waiting for these elections to be over because I will tell you that if he does win again, I will be there asking the hard questions. They can continue to ignore, and I'll continue going up the ladder and I'll continue documenting because that's what it's about. Document, 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 and then come at them that way. Okay, so we're at, I believe this is Peace Justice. He says the DRs are a part of the kangaroo court. I'm not sure what that means.
Well, we all know that. That's the comment I usually say is they all work for the company.
Mm-hmm.
They all work for the company. So getting one of them to had to come up to just sit around one day and say, you know what, it really ain't fair. Probably not gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's not gonna happen. You have to come at them with a real revolution. And angry
That's right.
mobs ain't gonna do it.
That's
They
right.
thrive off of that.
That's what they want because
Yes.
and that's what I try to explain right to my clients and to everybody around me. What they want is that's what they want to see Latinos and blacks do. particularly.
Now
They want
this,
us to act that way,
yeah, but they,
and
they
we
they
can't do
expect
it.
that because, and that's
Hmm.
why I tell people, if you're gonna play the game, at least play to win.
Yep. Be
Why
smart
give
about
your
it. Be
why
book
give
smart
yourself
about
up
it.
stupidly like that and be a
That's right.
pawn? That don't make sense. Let me read this one because I like this thing. The people should be able to elect parole board members. The governor appoints his good old boys to continue the cycle they have going on. Offenders have family and loved ones that they are valued, and we have a tendency to forget that if they can build the system up on the inside, sounds like they can adapt to society if given the opportunity. You're exactly right.
Hmm.
You're exactly right. Your leverage is your vote against this system. You can go after Stacey Abrams right now. Send her, hit her with email, calls, everything. Show up if she talking somewhere and ask her about this situation and how she feels about it. You know how Kemp feels about it. You
Oh
knew
yeah,
how
and
you knew how Nathan Deal felt about it because half of them, a lot of them were appointed by Nathan Deal.
yeah, but and see, I will say this though. According to what I've heard from a lot of lifers, him and his wife did release a lot of them because they
Yes.
got to know them because they were at the governor's mansion and they got to know them and they released them.
Oh,
But I don't
they
think that
release
Kemp
all
is
their
doing it.
friends.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, that's I
Or
mean,
anybody they were good with. Everybody they were good with,
and if
right?
you can't understand that and you on this call, you unrealistic because you would do
Yeah.
the same thing for your friends.
Absolutely. And no, and let's be real, all of us
Right.
do.
So that's how that also lets you
Jamil, we
know where the
actually
corruption
just
at.
mentioned the same thing. I'm sorry, Leonard. We actually just mentioned the same thing. I'm sorry I didn't get to your comment till now. But that is one of my goals. I'm just waiting for these elections because they're not going to be moving. They're not going to do anything right now because there's elections coming up. I don't believe, Leonard, what is your opinion? Because if
Well,
we can
what
do
any
something, I'm
citizen,
going to
yeah,
fight.
definitely. What any citizen can do is you can actually schedule an appointment with the governor.
Okay.
Schedule an appointment with the governor. Now, whether he shows up or not, he will at least send someone, his aide, to discuss
Okay.
with you your concern. But
Okay.
you have to make an appointment. Just like with the mayor's office in Atlanta. You make that appointment. Then if they parole board is all white with one black woman, then that means it's not all white if there's one black person there. Let's think better than that.
Yeah, I agree. You know, like I said, Leonard, I'm thinking it, and he just blurts it out.
I ain't
Leonard
said I
blurts
care.
it
I ain't say I care. I ain't said I care for her.
out.
But that's why she there, cause she can put the face on.
Mhm.
The better question is, why isn't there a black man on that board since the majority of incarcerated individuals are black men? Where's
That
our
I agree with.
representation?
That I agree with. And now, this is from Peace Justice. Parole board is set up to keep denying because of shareholder. A
Exactly.
person should not be released because they work for them, Governor BS. Now, let me tell you guys something. That's something that Mr. Hayes didn't mention. Shareholders. And I was like, shareholders. So I was like, I'm going to ask about this because I'm like, he says shareholders are asked to keep the inmates inside, as well as we have shareholders that ask to release them. So I'm like, what the heck is that? Like, what are we talking about here? Because if you're a shareholder and you want them in, so you're just saying the taxpayers. Let's just say how it is.
Well, hold
The
on. Well,
taxpayers.
that's we can't say that because one, I teach the shareholder aspect when it comes to community because
Jamil's on a roll today.
there's two different types of shareholders that we're talking about. Peace
Mm-hmm.
Justice is talking about the actual corporations that
Mm-hmm.
are
Mm-hmm.
invested in this for-profit prison system.
Absolutely.
That is different than the community shareholder aspect.
So I wasn't sure what he was talking about, Leonard. That's why I was actually gonna get a few activists together and ask about that because it really stayed with me, right? Because I'm like shareholders. So
Right.
what? Wait. If we're talking about it from the aspect that Peace Justice is coming at it, that's discrimination because now you're keeping them in like slaves. We're
Well,
really
first of
keeping
all,
them in.
let me, even, just to be funny, which is not, I remember when I brought up slavery and incarceration.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's the law that provides for slavery,
Mhm.
according to the 13th Amendment.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So let's not act like we don't know the facts of the matter. People say,
Mhm.
well, it's just not right that people, and it ain't right for this. Well, take all that, what ain't right to church. That's where you had them conversations about how you feel. Go ahead, somebody's church. You have to deal with what is actually happening and try to change what actually is happening, not what you believe to be the case. We know that in a for-profit system, you can invest in a corporation that
Mhm.
benefits from incarceration.
And I
You
know
can buy
Walmart is
that
one of
stock.
them.
You
Walmart is one of them, just
right. There's
FYI.
several of them.
Mhm.
Most of them, are
Mhm.
considerable. They have considerable amounts of money to invest and considerable amount of monies to make. Everyone currently on the parole board probably have
Has
an
invested.
invested interest in the decisions that they are making, far above and beyond their concern for public safety.
Jamil, who's contradicting themselves just so that we clear up whatever you're saying about the contradiction? Um, so now let me ask you a question. You mentioned going and setting up a meeting with the governor. Um, how often do you think that that should be done? And how is that going to make a change with little old Leonard or little old Pete Justice or little old Jamil or Frederick or Anna or Erica going over there and speaking of these things?
Well,
What do
it
you
makes a
think?
big difference if you have an organization, if you can
Okay.
prove that you have people interested in this issue, if you
So
can have
getting signatures.
if you exactly if you have people that so many people, and you say, well, in this day and age, how many followers you got? Because if you do have a legitimate movement and you're represented on Facebook, they're gonna go and they're gonna see how many people are on board.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do you have enough to change a vote in a particular area? What influence do you have over lawmakers? It's about your team and how you go. You can go and get an appointment with anybody can go get an appointment with the governor. If you just want to shake his hand, you can get an appointment. It's just whether or not he's gonna choose to be there or not.
Mm-hmm.
Usually an aide will come out or what have you, because the governor ain't just sitting around doing nothing all day. So, and there's a time schedule and time frame from making the request and when you can expect a response. And that's detailed for you on the office of the governor's website. I say that because I used to make those appointments to go down there
So how many times have you actually met with the governor that you've
twice.
actually scheduled an appointment?
Twice. It's definitely much definitely more effective if you meet in coalition with the governor.
Okay.
So one, you say this organization wants to see the governor, which is a
Okay.
lot more effective. We did that as it relates to, I remember the school board scandals and things like that. And we were able to get those audiences with the governor at that time. It ain't about the governor being racist and biased. It's about you making your interests known to the governor and then letting him know you won't be supporting him or not. That's what it's about. And that you will lead others not to support him. And that you will campaign against him if he doesn't support the changes you're trying to make.
And if you recall, when the elections came up last time around, I was very adamant
Mhm.
that who we had in office, and I made sure that my following knew, and I don't post politics and stuff because
Right,
it's not my interest.
right.
It is my interest to a certain extent, but I don't care about parties. The parties is not what's going to help us right now. right? We just need the laws changed, right? So I'm not going to be for this one or that one because at the end of the day, they're all with the same okey doke, in my opinion. That's my opinion, right? So I made it my business and I posted it over and over, and I'll show you guys over and over again. Puerto Ricans will not forget how we were disrespected, paper towels thrown at us. I lost my grandmother, and I'm still angry because she only survived 6 months after. So I think that when you do have a following, not that I have the greatest following, but I do have a following, they listen to that because many did get up and, you know what, I'm going to vote.
Right.
And guess what? Even if it was a whole joke and we had a January 6th and all of that, guess what? Those angry Puerto Ricans and our people of color, Black folks, voted who we voted in, whether you agree with it or not.
Right.
I'd rather have that that's in office right now, and I hate to balance it like that. I mean, I really don't see
Right.
much he's done wrong than what we had.
But
Because
even
that was worse.
grassroots, even we've
Yep,
seen individuals that work with us on a grassroots level are now congressmen and mayors of cities. But you have to continue to support them in those things that they fought for while they were activists on the streets.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
things don't happen
That's right.
overnight. You know,
That's
you
right.
can't put passion in front of process like
That's
that
right.
because you look organized and it's easy to distract and disperse of you if everybody got their own feelings about everything and don't want to strengthen the blow that you're trying to strike.
That's right.
That's what
And I think a
solidarity is
major
about.
problem, and I think a major problem here is too, Leonard, us people of color, we attack each other too much. It's the truth.
Right.
We
For no
do.
apparent reason.
Yeah. Like me, I don't care. I love everybody. And guess what? I'm just going to give you a chance. And when you do something personally to me, that's a whole different, we're talking about a whole
Mhm.
different ballpark right there. Like I said, it was personal when my grandmother died.
Right.
That was personal. That was personal. So you could have done a million and one other things I hated, but now it hit home.
Right. And see,
Her and over 3,000 more Puerto Ricanos died.
and that's why
No
there
help.
should have been over here stateside,
That's right.
there should be a movement
Have been
still.
evacuated.
There should
Oh,
be a
there still
movement.
is. They were
Right.
just doing it the other day for the electricity because then you had Canada come in and now they're overpricing them. And guess what we did? We had a party over at the governor's mansion again until they lowered the prices. So guess what? That's
Exactly.
how you do it.
And
That's how
that's
you do
how
it. That's
you
what I
and
be
that's
trying
how
to
you
tell
do it.
people. That's
How do
right.
you get in the way? How do you get in the way when something's not going your way
That's right.
to get it to change? And the whole angry mob and all that, it just don't work. It just don't work because especially the nature of this movement. All citizens are not going to support you. All citizens are not going to believe that this is the
Especially if
right
they're
way,
Republican. I hate to say it that
especially
way.
if they're Republican, and it matters if the Republican is the majority.
Yeah.
It's still like you say, yeah, it was great, had a great turnout for the federal election, but we still show it's still almost 50% of fools live right here in Georgia. 50% of these fools still willing to vote for what's his name, Herschel Walk.
Yeah, yeah. What is that? But
I mean, don't
and
never assume that just because you think it's right that the majority of people will support you. You have to have a real convincing argument to build a movement. Were you gonna read that? Yeah.
yeah, I can read it. I can read it, or you can, whichever.
I'll read it. That's
Okay.
easy for us to say sitting outside. We're free. But what about these brothers and sisters sitting in prison year after year after year who keep getting these set offs talking damn sure isn't working? Well, that's the point of us being out here. We have a ground game that we must play, and they have a ground game they must play. Now, if you would like to go undercover to do these things, do so. Remember, we're not stopping any attack that a person has against the
Right.
system. But
Um,
this is more so to develop a strategic approach to getting things done.
absolutely. And see, that's what I when I air these shows. I had Morales here. I don't know if you caught it. I did 2 shows on GDC, the system, because I want people to open up their eyes. I don't do this just for ratings or whatever. This is really my passion. This
Right.
is really what I'm doing to help these individuals. So I'm willing to take, as an activist, as a woman, as a leader, right? Any advice that I can take to help dismantle the system, especially like you know, because this is just it. When I just kept hearing these are the laws in Georgia. What laws?
Yeah.
What law? I'm going over to the archives when I come back into town Monday morning,
Hmm.
guys. I will be at the archives. It'll actually be part of Nathaniel's homeschool Monday. Okay, I will be at the archives, and I'm going to look up these laws because I want to see when this was enacted. Because now, then I'm going to come with the facts of, okay, this is what they have. So what are we going to do to change it?
Hmm.
Right?
Right.
Or if there's no laws, then hold on. Why are you telling the general public this? Because it's not true. There is no law. This is just your invented law that you say policy, like I was just ping pong over one of my clients saying I had to call all these different people tell the truth. It's your department, it's your prison who has a committee and who they go ahead and they make these rules.
Hmm.
Stop lying.
That's right.
And it's like they ping pong you around to lead you to a dead end road. I'm sorry, I'm not the one.
Right. And you
Don't
have to
forget
have
I'm Puerto Rican. We have a lot of passion. We have a lot of passion.
and you have to have people willing to do that work.
Absolutely.
That type of work you get you I used to have police officers who really wanted to say things, but they couldn't because at the time they were employed, right?
Mhm.
So they promised that, okay, when I retire, I'm going to do this. Because I've helped police officers as well that have been discriminated against.
Mhm.
So I understand things from a rational point of view. I don't get carried away about anything. I don't get out of control about anything. Anything.
I know you
Well, I'm
don't.
not gonna let you know the card I'm playing,
That's
you
right.
know.
That's
So
right.
here's the approach. Now you see me say, hey, I don't seen this guy with too many different organizations too many times about
What
this
is he up
thing.
to? Mhm.
Exactly. Next thing you know, we're doing press conferences outside your house.
I know that's right.
So
Or we'll
it's
do what Haroon did. Like
exactly.
ran up on the mayor. His
Come on,
house.
man. It's like because you talk to these people a lot of times,
That's
you
right.
with their career before they get this job, you know them when they had that job and what they were not
Mhm.
doing and why
That's
they
right.
went to this job. So like just like we have to follow those police officers that commit heinous crimes and then just go across the street to the other police department,
Mhm.
you have to have an effort against that because we fight against what they say they are supposed to be doing but are not doing.
And see, and everybody, this is why it was so important to go back and talk about this rally and this parole board, which we still haven't even gotten to the rally. To talk about these conversations that were said, because there was even, I'm sure you have that in the notes, where they commended correctional officers for saving somebody's life. That's cool and all of that. But what in the world does that have to do with these offenders and what they can do to get out? I don't know.
And the
And it's like I said.
operations department is very diverse,
Mhm, mhm,
very inclusive.
mhm, mhm.
Understand that. So the things and the cliches and the old ways of using race, prove it.
Mhm.
That's a fight that one ain't gonna yield a whole bunch of fruit. You go
Yep,
after the inconsistencies and the injustice that is going on, not your
absolutely.
perspectives on race.
Yeah, and absolutely, because I'll tell you, I did notice exactly what you're saying. There was a lot of diversity.
Oh
I didn't
yes.
see Latinos, I don't think. I don't think I saw Latinos. However, I did see about the same amount of Black people that were there. as well as white
And this
people
is the first, but see,
getting a job.
and that's a huge characteristic here because you hear in the new chocolate city.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's why you see that way.
Absolutely.
People who have
Absolutely.
over 27 years in law enforcement experience. So we know who they work for. We know what they're about. There are
Absolutely.
some prisoners that will come and tell you great stories about their supervisors and people that paroled them and that supervise their parole. They'll say, hey, this person is great. But I'm pretty sure there are terrible stories as well. And then there are the stories of the people that don't do what they supposed to do.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
And that's why because if you sit in front of me and you want some help, and like you said, when you go to help someone, you look and say, okay, they don't have no DRs.
Mm-hmm.
What's the problem? But then
That's
if
right.
you look down there and see those reports, right, you're gonna question them.
And I have to
I
ask
can't fight.
you
I
what
can't
happened.
fight for you if it's in black and white. You can't have these reports, and you got them.
Yeah. And see, that's where the transparency has to come along, right?
Right.
So that's what I try to do even with the system. I have to give you transparency. I have to, you have to give me transparency so that I'm able to then help them, because then I need to tell them, okay, look, what's going on is you had this amount of DRs, but you have to wait this amount of time before they'll even consider you, even though they're not saying it. That's what that means. You see, but if you're just telling me, what is it? You haven't done enough time. What the heck is that?
Right.
So what is you haven't done enough time for your crime? What is you haven't done enough time? Because according to what the judge said, and I think it was you that I was having that conversation with, Leonard, according to what the judge said, there is the possibility of parole. There is a certain amount of time, depending on when you got incarcerated, that you are able to go up and get that opportunity. Why are you not letting my clients in? And I'm
Right.
not going to stop. You guys are going to see. It's going to be a party at the governor's house,
Right.
like in Puerto Rico. And I'm going to make sure of it because I have to make sure that there are these changes.
And also,
Wait
you're
till after the
checking for
election.
what is there discrimination there?
Absolutely. And you know
What's
what? I believe that there is, Leonard.
yes,
I
there
believe that
is.
there is.
That's why it's so broad, and that's
Mm-hmm.
why this board is given so much leeway.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think under the prospect of they deserve it, I don't care for that attitude.
Me neither.
I
Me
think
neither.
that
Because
in
that might be you one day. And
exactly
then
in
you might be
20
calling on me.
thank you. And in
Mm-hmm.
2022, I would rather it be written in black and white what it is than someone having the authority to not tell me what it is. That's
There you go.
how racism works
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
becomes so systemic. If your main gripe is what they have done to people over the last 100 years and black, who cares?
Yeah.
I need to know. We need to stab them right now in the heart of the
Mm-hmm.
matter,
That's right.
not in some oral fixation with telling the story.
That's right.
We need to get it in black and white. You tell me why you did it, and if it ain't discriminatory, then it ain't discriminatory. But if I got all this evidence, you gonna hear what I got to say.
That's right.
And that's the thing about activism is making people aware is the first step.
Yeah.
Identifying the power.
Yep.
Speak truth to that power to change it. You can stand outside all you want. And we have that segment of the movement where we volunteer. Anybody want to go to jail today? And we get volunteers to go to jail that day. So trust me, if you got that type of energy,
Right.
there's a part in the movement for you.
Absolutely.
Some people
I don't want to
want to.
volunteer for Jenny jail.
I'm just saying, but
I'm just
that's
saying.
one thing we consider it like that,
Yeah, yeah. I'm kidding, you guys. I'm kidding. I will do anything that it takes to help my client.
I mean,
My
we
case.
actually will have lists and sign the list if you're willing to go to jail. You get to go to the front. You're going to do the sit-in. You're going to blockade this or do that.
Absolutely.
But angry mob? No, sir. Ma'am, I'm not sure if it was male or female.
Yes, sir.
But that's really not what the majority, I think, is about, or it would have happened by now. And in all my years of organizing and things like that, we never march people and we never march our people or run our people into danger that way. So if anybody,
and I think that that's what they want. They wanted to see an angry mom. They wanted to see, they didn't know. Let me tell you one thing. When they noticed me at that door, they're wondering, wait a minute, did she leave the way I was dressed? Because I was dressed pretty nice.
Mr. Hayes was very forthcoming with me until he found out what I was about.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so you're the communications director.
Mm-hmm.
I've spoken with your ombudsman earlier because I know that's the person that usually will probably field all the complaints that come from the general public. We're the general public that responds to those complaints when you don't. So I'll establish a relationship with them with New Order so that they, you know what? That guy told me from New Order that if someone came to him, he would be contacting me about this issue.
Mm-hmm.
Because then if you work with us, then one, we talk to the families of these people. Would you like to do a press conference if necessary?
That's right.
How far are you willing to go with us with this for us, for you? Because we don't get paid a dime.
Nope.
For our time. And one, when we talk about
especially me, I travel from a whole different state, guys.
I don't even know where she be at half the time. I really don't. She just pop up. So.
Leonard be like, where you at? Where you at? I'm going back. I'm going back to the different state now. But that's how much passion I have for what I do. I travel if I have to. I just went there for a rally, for a meeting, and shot right back home. 7-hour drive. Back home, I was exhausted because I drove overnight, but I did it. And see, that's what it's about.
And your notification, I don't get paid nothing. Your notifying me was completely, I wasn't expecting it. I didn't know anything about it. Yeah. But now that I do know about it and I look at it and I take it and I put it out to my organization.
That's right.
Now I have to commit to that. So I can't just
once a month
rush my organization into no BS.
That's right.
We don't do that. But if it's a righteous cause, we definitely lend our support and resources to that. So I'm all for supporting Miss Erica. But I want to support Miss Erica how she wants to be supported. Because she invited me to that thing. And I want to be a part of her coalition to work to make change.
That's right.
If Miss Erica were to come to me and say, well, you know what? We're thinking about taking some guns down there and such and such. Well, no, ma'am, we won't be doing that. New Order won't be doing that with you.
But I'm just saying, there
I've been in those protests.
Yes.
Where people have taken it upon themselves.
Yeah, I don't do protests
to be
for that reason. Yeah, I don't do that for that reason because I have a lot to lose. I built this with my own 2 hands.
Exactly.
So my own sweat, my own traveling, my own giving a name, fighting for these people for these clients, right? To me, clients that I've grown to really care for as human beings, right? So for me to turn around and have my name involved with anything crazy like that, it's not going to happen. Like Anna's like, oh no, I'm out of here.
Right, and
I'm not doing that. We're not doing this because I'm not going to lose everything I worked so hard for. When these clients, they're counting on me. Some of them have nobody but we see you.
Right.
That speaks volumes.
And that's why it's so important when you ask me, can we be added to the list of supporting organizations?
That's right.
Because once we add our brand, to this, oh yeah, there's going to be certain requirements that we have as well. And one of
That's
them
right.
is no violence.
That's right. I'm with you. I'm with you.
And I believe that's things that has to be made clear to people. If that's what you're looking for, we're not that group.
That's right.
We are a organization that believes in proceeding in peace and getting things done. We
And
do
doing a lot
all
of things behind
the
closed doors.
protesting and everything on the streets, but we also got to be at the tables where the decisions are made.
That's right.
So
And I'm
some
real big on the table. I'm real
right,
big. I'd rather be doing that than be out there protesting. Just me. I'd rather be sitting there in a and I'm really going to schedule a meeting with the governor. I'm going to do it before
yeah,
these
do that.
elections, and I'm going to attempt to do it before. And if we can, I'm going to go ahead and do one after. I wonder if you can have more than one organization come in and speak with them, because I think that that's what's needed. And I
Yes,
think I'm going to start that.
it's a for the person who, like, one, I'm going to use for example, either you or Miss Erica.
Hmm.
And with Miss Erica, when she first came on the line, she showed an interest and it seemed like it was becoming a 501c3 and doing this
Hmm.
herself as well.
Hmm.
Whatever that coalition
Which
is,
I am going to help her with
right,
that. I
that
am.
coalition goes down as the one that's seeking the audience with the governor.
Okay.
If
Okay.
it's just you and somebody else, you put that if you don't have a good name for it or what have you.
Okay.
But you're building a movement that you're so passionate about that one, you like you said, you already sacrificing a lot.
Mhm.
You just invited me to the rally. You know what I'm saying? So I'm
Mhm.
sitting here. I will help you all organize and things like that, and let you. And we want to make sure that we're useful.
That's right.
That we're useful because this is a big deal, so to speak, because
It's
it
a
is the
huge deal.
power. It is the power. This is not a private company.
No.
This is the government.
Yep.
So there's a different approach to a private issue and a public issue like this one. And we know the big flag phrase is mass incarceration. If anybody gonna take notes, go deeper than that.
That's
Everybody know
right.
mass incarceration, and mass incorporation. You need to look at opportunities for release.
Yep. How?
You
How
know,
can we change this?
how do you do it?
Um. So, quick question, Leonard. What? Well, no. Actually, I want to announce this. If there's anybody out there, you guys please share this, like it, comment on it, because this is what we're trying to do, and we're trying to get people involved. If anybody out there is really, really good at writing something, I'm going to try to get, because my time is so limited, I'm going to try to get as many signatures as possible, go behind the cause so that we're able to bring this to the governor. We're able to bring this, if not to representatives, go as far up as Ossoff. I know Ossoff is infamous for sitting down in a meeting and talking to people, activists, so forth, so on. So there is a few DAs that are also willing to listen. Fulton County, I can't think of her name. She's actually helping and going back on a lot of these life sentences that were not done right.
And
There
her
was
good and
corruption.
her good and her what I'm trying to say. That needs to be known because
That's right.
even with because say for
She's willing
instance,
to listen.
if
Hmm.
she's and she that's the way she appeared to be from my interviews and my relationship with her prior to
Hmm.
her getting this position and
Hmm.
explaining to her new orders position and talking to
Hmm.
her about her discretion. We need to see the public really needs to see her doing something else on their behalf.
That's right.
So we will be giving her an opportunity to prove that there is some change because guess where all of the charges come from in Fulton County?
That's
Her
right.
office. And getting that audience with her is
That's right.
needed as well because she's the one preparing the charges and things like that for those individuals. She's a power person that is elected to
That's right.
serve you. So
That's
you
right.
need to hold her accountable. I
That's
ain't
right.
gonna say we on best terms right now, but we'll deal with that as well. But like she said, she know what we're about,
That's
and
right.
we know what she promised.
That's right. And see, I also want to give a shout out, and they will be coming here very soon. Former Sheriff Clemens, Curtis Clemens, as
Oh,
well as
cool.
Patty
Yes,
Austin from
Miss
Gwinnett.
Austin.
That
Awesome.
DA has been really working to not
Yes.
do these what do you call it? What's the word I'm looking for? Unfair sentences.
Yes.
She
Especially
is
for
the
young
DA.
people. Hmm.
Yes, yes. So she's really, really, really been working. I am setting that up with them. I absolutely love Patty Austin as well as Mr. Clemens.
Hmm.
And like I said, I'm gonna stand behind them as Lunchtime with Anna, as well as We See You Human Justice Organization leader, because I think he is needed to be sheriff out there in
Gwinnett.
Gwinnett, and what he does, because the city is so diverse, he just has that. You'd have to get to know him to know what I'm saying, and you know him personally as well, Leonard. These are wonderful people that are worth having in office. So, consider looking at all these people, guys, because elections are going to be coming up soon, and I will be having a lot of these people come on in, because we need to know, what are you going to get done, or why haven't you gotten done what you promised us when you got our vote that you were going to get done.
And it
See
would
what I'm saying?
also, if Miss Erica reaches out to that congressperson, hold him accountable to what he said he's about.
Yes.
He's
And that's
campaigning. McLaurin.
what was his name?
McLaurin.
McFlory?
McLaurin.
McLaurin. Yeah, I also reached out to him because I want the public to ask questions,
And
especially in Georgia.
ask him, what would his bill look like to change some of these things? What bill, what verbiage that he think would be best? Because like sometimes it, like with the death penalty issue, it was almost a one-liner as it relates to um, the criteria,
Hmm.
like just
Hmm.
something that was going to be scratched out to relate the fact that not as severe,
Hmm.
related to the
Hmm.
severity
Hmm.
of something that was already there. And
Hmm.
even
hmm
our approach when Troy Davis was the issue, to try to
hmm
get to change the law as it relates to this. If one person sees you, that's enough to get the death penalty. If
hmm
one person, it has to be one of the most strictest in the United States of America.
hmm
That
hmm
Georgia will take the witness of one individual
hmm
to convict another one and sentence them to death. Not saying that one person does not witness this happen.
hmm
But just like we don't believe that 5 people on the board should be making the decision for thousands of
One
inmates,
person. Yeah.
one
One
person should
person.
not be allowed to sentence another, to be used to sentence another person to death this way.
Absolutely. I
We have to
agree.
think about that. Everybody isn't against the death penalty. You hear people
That's
often
right.
go, that person we- should be castrated. Really?
Well, see, and this is my thing. And Leonard, I think you know that I was a devout Christian.
Yes.
Christian, I think that's how you met me for many years. After seeing what I saw in many supposed to be devout Christians, I have left that position of leadership,
Oh,
because
okay. I
I
didn't know
believe
that.
we should be good people. Period.
Exactly. That's what I
And
told
a
them
good
today.
person, if the Bible tells you don't kill, right? So I'm just giving an example. Thou shalt not kill. So why is it okay to execute somebody? So it's an eye for an eye. So we're going on the Old Testament. And that's a whole different show, guys. But
Hmm.
what I'm saying is I don't believe in that. Why is it that you were attacking a certain amount of people, but then you're not attacking you being a predator? See what I'm
Right.
saying? So I say all that to say this. Anna left because I got tired of the double standard or
The
the
double standard.
hypocrisy. We're not going to do this. We're not
Right.
going to do this. And, I know it got a little bit off subject, but I say all that to say this. How is that okay? How is it? I don't stand with the death penalty. I don't, and I understand some of them have done some horrible things, but that's why there's a prison. That's why there's a system And that's probably who the system was made for.
Mhm.
But somehow has ended up going and drizzling down to other people
Mhm.
that
And
it shouldn't be.
right. And everybody has a different approach. That's why there's always a place for people to serve. So you have to be about choosing
Absolutely.
how you want to pursue. Definitely, Miss Erica. I know we got some technical difficulties today.
She wants to come back next week
Yeah,
for week
anytime.
2. Roxanne wants to come back for week 3. They all want
Okay.
to talk and go into detail. And she said, it's going into the hour. We didn't think we would be here as long as we've been here.
Right.
Another thing, Leonard, if you could give a quick rundown on how it was outside. We did lose some of a lot of the activists that were inside did not stay for the rally, which I thought was very unfortunate. I stayed as long as I could. Anybody who saw Nathaniel Leonard did get a glimpse of it. Nathaniel was swinging so high on a bench. I thought he was going to flip it over. Okay. Like he used to do the swings. That's my ADHD son. Just laughing.
That's my main
This is
man,
a true
Nathaniel.
story. This is a true story, guys. So I was like, "What in the world?" And he was just moody. He was tired. He was just. I was like, "Let's go," So I stayed as long as I could for I think over an hour and a half. I think after the fact. What was your take on the rally, on what was said? Because I'm going to tell you what I thought the most important thing there said.
Mhm. Well, I
Let's
enjoyed the rally from the
go ahead.
point of being an organizer. I know
Mm-hmm.
how hard it is to get people out. So there were about at least 15 people, I would say,
Mm-hmm.
at least.
I'd
We
say,
had
yeah,
she had a PA system there,
she
and
did.
she invited individuals to speak who had a completely different perspective from different points of view. We had
Mm-hmm.
a man who was incarcerated, got out, changed his life, and now that's the way he donates his service back, is trying to help change that same system. And
Mm-hmm.
this was an older white gentleman with gray silver hair, excellent attitude.
Oh, you're talking about John.
Yeah, excellent
Yes.
attitude. Him and I believe that was his wife with him. They're a
Mm-hmm.
team
John.
doing that. We had another young brother that was going to run for office as well, who just retired, who was a counselor for individuals within the system, I believe. And of course, we had Mr. McLaurin, who was a representative who I believe is running for the Senate,
Yeah.
I
He's with
think.
prison reform. Prison reform, I believe
With
their
prison
organization is
reform,
called.
right.
Mm-hmm.
And just individuals who had loved ones that were incarcerated. And we had another activist who definitely zeroed in on concerns with the treatment in the Department of Corrections.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, we had Miss Dawn Arthur, who was there with Georgia registering people to vote. So I'm
Shout
so,
out to Dawn. Shout out to Dawn. I always
yeah.
see her in all the groups
But
that they got
I
me
think
in.
it was very effective, but what I will say, the work ahead is gonna be some heavy lifting, and it's gonna take for people to reach out and build this coalition and support Miss Erica and yourself to make sure we're trying to accomplish something, to set objectives
Right.
for this movement. And that's
That's
what's
right.
gonna be most important so you know which direction you're going. I'm sorry I have to go. I have an
Yes.
issue. I wasn't expecting to be on this long, but
No,
we'll set
Leonard,
another one up, okay?
yes, you are always a pleasure to have. And let me tell you one thing. I thank you. And I
No
thank you
problem.
for standing behind Lunchtime with Anna. And we'll be getting together soon because we
Yes,
need to
ma'am.
get on that governor. All
Yes.
right.
Thanks.
And with that being said, I love and I appreciate each and every one of you guys for tuning in. I did not expect for us to be on here so long. I'll tell you, when it comes to this, my passion, you guys have no idea, is so high. So anybody who's willing to write whatever what is needed, maybe on a change.org, or we'll figure out some platform, because I'm going to bring those signatures to the governor myself. And I need Georgia to stand behind me. I need Georgia to stand behind me. I will. And I appreciate you so much, Melody. But with that being said, I will see you guys next week here on Lunchtime with Anna. Please behave yourselves. Stay focus on whatever it is that you're doing that's positive. Be the change, be positive, and continue to fight for whatever it is that you feel is the change that's needed to make this world a better place. With that being said, you guys all have a wonderful weekend. I will be traveling back up to the state of Georgia to see my boo, and I will see you guys. God bless y'all.